All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to peel back the layers of the modern cloud and really understand the technologies that make it all possible. We're talking about virtualization, hypervisors, and containers. We'll start with some simple analogies and then drill down into the nitty-gritty technical details that senior engineers work with every single day.
So, where does this whole story even begin? Well, it starts with a massive, massive problem of waste. You see, for decades, the golden rule in IT was one app, one server. The idea was to keep your email server from crashing your database, you just give each one its own powerful, dedicated machine. And the result of that? You had servers just sitting there, literally idle 90% of the time. Think about that. An incredible waste of space, power, and, of course, money.
So, to solve this, we needed a completely new way of thinking. And that brings us to our first big concept, virtualization. This is the technology that lets us take back all of that wasted power and capacity. To really get your head around this, just imagine a huge movie theater. Now, the old way of doing things was like showing one movie to just one person in a 500-seat auditorium. A total waste, right? Virtualization, on the other hand, is like giving every single person in that theater their own VR headset. Suddenly, you can have 500 people watching 500 different movies, all at the same time, all while sharing the exact same physical space.
Okay, so that movie theater analogy is great, but let's anchor it to the actual definition. Virtualization is, at its core, software that creates a virtual version of a resource. What it does is it tricks one single physical computer into thinking and acting like it's many different independent computers, with each one totally isolated from all the others.
So how does this magic trick actually work? Well, it's not really magic. It's a clever technique called time sharing. Your CPU isn't actually running a dozen things at the exact same microsecond. Instead, it's performing something called a context switch. It runs a few instructions for virtual machine A, saves its state, then instantly loads the state for virtual machine B, runs that for a few milliseconds, and just keeps repeating that cycle. It does this so unbelievably fast that it creates the perfect illusion of everything running at the same time. But, in the real world, nothing is free. There are always trade-offs. The big risk with virtualization is something called the noisy neighbor effect. That's where one really greedy, resource-hungry VM can actually slow down all the other VMs on the same physical machine. The massive reward, though, is something we call elasticity. Because these virtual machines are really just files, we can copy them, move them, and manage them entirely with code. And that idea, that is the entire foundation of infrastructure as code and, really, the modern cloud itself. Now, this whole process of juggling multiple VMs needs a manager, right? You need a piece of software to orchestrate everything. And that piece of software is what we call the hypervisor. Probably the best way to think about a hypervisor is like a traffic cop at a really busy intersection. The cars are all the virtual machines, and they all want to use the road, which is the CPU and the RAM. The hypervisor is the one directing traffic, telling one VM, hey, you wait, while letting another one go. It makes sure they don't crash into each other while they're all sharing the same physical hardware. So the crucial takeaway here is this. The hypervisor is that specific software layer that sits between the physical hardware and the virtual machines. Its job is to manage all the resources and, most importantly, enforce that critical isolation between the VMs. It's basically the brain of the entire operation. Now, it turns out there are two main ways to build this system. On the one hand, you've got what's called a Type 1 or bare metal hypervisor. In this case, the hypervisor is the operating system. It boots directly from the hardware, which gives it maximum performance. On the other hand, you have a Type 2 or hosted hypervisor. This one is just an application, like any other program you'd run. It runs on top of a normal OS like Windows or Mac OS and has to kind of ask that main OS for permission to use the hardware. Let's actually look at the logic inside. This simplified bit of Python code shows you the hypervisor's most important job. Before it even thinks about creating a new VM, it does a critical check. Take a look at line 4. It's asking a really simple question. Hey, does the amount of RAM I'm already using, plus the RAM this new VM is asking for, go over the total physical RAM I have? If the answer is yes, it throws an out-of-memory error and just says no. That simple check is what keeps the entire system from crashing down. So which type should you use? Well, any senior engineer will tell you the trade-off is pretty clear. It's all about overhead versus convenience. A Type 2 is easy, right? You can install it on your laptop in a few minutes, but it's going to be slow because there's that extra layer. For any real production environment, the rule is simple. You always use a Type 1.
It cuts out the middleman, and it gives you the raw speed and stability you absolutely have to have for critical applications. Virtual machines are incredibly powerful, but they're also, well, they're heavy. They have to include a full operating system, and they can take minutes to boot up. Developers realized they needed something faster, something more lightweight, and that need led us directly to our next topic, containers. This whole houses versus apartments analogy just perfectly explains the difference. A virtual machine, that's like a suburban house. It's totally self-contained. It has its own foundation, its own plumbing, its own electrical, its own roof, the whole 9 yards. A container, though, is much more like an apartment. It's super lightweight and fast to move into because it shares the building's core infrastructure. The main foundation, the plumbing, and the roof. And here is the key technical distinction, the one thing to remember. A VM virtualizes the hardware. A container, on the other hand, virtualizes the operating system. It works at the OS level, creating these isolated little spaces for applications without needing to boot up a whole new guest OS for every single one. This diagram makes the architecture crystal clear. Look at the left side. Each VM has its own separate guest OS and kernel. Now look at the right. All of those containers are sharing the same host kernel. That is the secret sauce. That's why containers are so much more efficient. They don't have all the overhead of a full OS, which allows them to start up in milliseconds instead of minutes. It's a game changer. So the big question is, when do you use which one? The rule of thumb in production is this. Containers are absolutely perfect for lightweight, stateless microservices. These are apps that don't need to remember anything from one request to the next. VMs, however, are still better for stateful workloads, like big databases that have to preserve data and state over long periods of time. Plus, that hardware-level separation gives you a much tougher security boundary, which is crucial for some applications. Okay, so we've covered the core building blocks. Now, let's put all these pieces together and see how they actually form the foundation of the modern cloud that we all use every day. You see, virtualization isn't just about CPUs and memory. The exact same principle applies to the entire data center. Network virtualization gives us what you could call virtual wires, letting us reconfigure entire networks just using software. And storage virtualization gives us virtual disks, allowing us to pool hundreds of small physical drives into one giant, super resilient one. And this brings us to the ultimate point of all of this, the public cloud. Services like AWS, Google Cloud, Azure. It's really just the massive scale application of these exact principles. An EC2 instance, that's compute virtualization. A VPC, that's network virtualization. EBS storage, that's storage virtualization. It's all designed to do one thing, decouple your software from the physical hardware that's running underneath. So let's do a quick recap of the full stack. At the very bottom, you have the physical hardware, the metal. Sitting on top of that is the hypervisor, acting as our traffic cop. Then you have the operating system kernel, which is the foundation for everything. On top of that, we run our isolated environments, either those heavyweight VMs or the lightweight containers. And the final layer, infrastructure as code, is what lets us manage that whole shebang automatically. Each one of these layers we talked about was built to solve a very specific problem. First waste, then management, then speed. And together, they built the internet as we know it today. So that leaves us with one final big question to think about. What is the next huge problem that we need to solve? And what will be the next layer of abstraction that gets us there?